Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of DOCasts. In this screencast, we're going to cover the ls command within a Unix or Linux operating system. And what the ls command allows you to do is it allows you to list out the contents of a directory. So right now, I'm within a droplet that I just created. It's a Ubuntu 13.04 64-bit droplet that I've created with DigitalOcean, and I've just logged into the root directory. You can see what directory you're in, and most of the time, if not all the time, when you log into your droplet, you're logging into the home directory of that user. And I can go ahead and I can print the working directory using the pwd just to see where I am, and I'm in the root directory. Alright, so let's see what contents are within this directory, and I can do that by using the ls command. I'll press enter and I'll see that, hey, nothing's showing for this Ubuntu 13.04 installation. There's no files within my root directory. Or is there? Now what I can do is I can go ahead and I can search, or I can try to see if there are maybe some hidden files in there, and more than likely there is. So to do that, I'll use ls-a to see any hidden files that are possibly in this directory. So I'll press enter and you'll see, hey, there are some hidden files in there. There's your bash rc file, your cache file, profile, and the .ssh hidden directories. So right here, these are files. This is more or less a directory, or .ssh directory. But anyhow, let's say we want more information on what these directories or what these files are. Now we can append an L to the ls-a like so, or like that. It doesn't matter what order you put it in. And what that will do is, instead of printing out a short listing, which is just the file names or directory names, it'll print out much more information. So let's go ahead and press enter just to see what that looks like. And now you'll see, hey, there's a lot more information showing. And you'll see that there's your permissions block here, which we'll go over within another screencast. Your permissions block, you have the owner or the user of this file or directory. Then we have the group that's assigned to this file or directory, and right now, because Ubuntu is a brand new installation, we have no other groups in there, so by default it's the root group that's assigned to it. Then we have the file or directory size in bytes. So because when the ls command was first created, the users or the creators were working with more bytes rather than kilobytes, megabytes, and gigabytes and things like that. So it's going to go ahead and it's going to list everything out in bytes. And I'll show you a more human readable format in just a bit. But this is your file size in bytes. Then you have the date of creation along with the file name here. Anything with a dot in front of it is either a hidden file or a hidden directory. So as you can see, this is a hidden file. So luckily, this is a little bit color-coded here, but sometimes you may not be so lucky. And the way to tell this is a file is to just use the ls-l command to print out the long listing and to take a look at the first character within that line. If it's a dash, it's a file. If it's a D, right here, if it's a D, it's a directory. If it's an L, which you may see sometimes, that means it's a symbolic link. And the symbolic link, we can go over in another video. Let's say that we want to see the bytes within a more human readable format. And we can do that by appending an H to the ls-la command that we used earlier. So if we go ahead and put H, we'll see that, hey, it's no longer printing out in bytes. It's printing out in kilobytes. And how can you tell? Well, because there's a K now appended to the end of this number here. So if you're working with, megabytes or gigabytes, it's going to go ahead and put the appropriate M, G, or B in back of it. And that just allows you to read what's printed out in a more human readable, more modern day way. Now, let's say that I want to go ahead and I want to see the contents of my parent directory. So I no longer want to see the root directory here. I want to see what's above this root directory. Well, I can do that by using the ls command. And just like using the cd command to change to a parent directory with the 2 dots there, you can do the same thing with the ls and placing the 2 dots there, and that just signifies the parent directory. So if I press enter, you'll see that it's printing out the directories within the parent directory. And I can even use some of the other commands with this ... and I can do that by using ls dash, let's say I want to see maybe the hidden files in there, and I can do that by appending the a there and just adding the ... And what that'll do is it'll show any hidden files, like this example one that I created, any hidden files that may be in there. And you can basically use all the commands that you use within your current working directory within any other directory, just by specifying the directory after the commands. Now here's another trick or command that you can use with the ls command, and that is the -1. Now the -1 allows you to print out a list of the files or directories in a format of having one directory or file name per row. So let's go ahead and try that with the parent directory. We'll go ahead and use ls-1 for the parent directory, and instead of it being in this column view here, it'll be in more of a row view. So let's go ahead and press enter, and you'll see that these names are now printed out in rows rather than in the column view. So that's a little more easier to read. It can be very cumbersome once you have a lot of files or directories in there, but for now this is actually pretty beautiful in my eyes. Now let's say that we no longer want to just see the directory names, we want to see everything under it. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we can use the recursive option with the ls command, and I'll go ahead and I'll use the ls-R for recursive, and I'll press space, and then I'll use it for the parent directory. Now I'm going to go ahead, and once I run this, I'm going to press Control-C because it's going to just start listing everything out within these directories, and I just want to show you it as an example. So I'll press enter, and I just Control-C, and what we're seeing is that it's listing out all of the directories from the parent directory and everything under it. So all the subdirectories, all the files, and everything under the parent directory. And if you're just doing it for a directory such as the parent, which has a lot of files and directories under it, it can be very, very, very cumbersome to go through all of this information. Now, one thing you could use is the tree command. Now, the tree is not part of the ls command. It's actually a separate command that is very useful to see, you know, the directories and the subdirectories under it along with the files in a much more organized manner. So let's go ahead and just see or check if tree is installed on this Ubuntu installation. So I'll go ahead and I'll type in tree -- version just to check. I'll press enter, and tree program is currently not installed. So let's go ahead and clear out the screen just to be a little bit more organized. And let's go ahead and install tree on Ubuntu here. So we'll use sudo apt-get, and then we'll install tree. So I'll press enter, and it's going out, it's grabbing all the packages and everything that I need, and it's installing tree. Now if we use tree -- version again, you'll see that the latest version of tree has been installed. Now what I can do is I'll just clear out this area. What I can do is I can use tree in this directory, and you'll see that it's no directories, no files listed, and it's not showing those hidden files. But if I use it within the parent directory, so tree ... it'll go ahead and it'll start printing out all of these. Let me go ahead and Control-C. It'll start printing out all of the directories, the subdirectories, and the files underneath it. So this is a much more organized manner than what we did with the recursive command with ls. So that can get a little confusing, and the tree is just another tip or trick that you can use to see the directories and the files underneath there. So as you saw earlier, you can use tree with other paths or other directories, and you can specify their absolute paths there as well. So let's say that what we're going to do is just list out the files for the parent directory, and we want to see everything under the sbin, which is the system applications that usually show for the root user administrators. So we'll use the tree, and then we'll use .. sbin, and it'll show us all of the files and directories that are in the sbin area. If we just scroll up, we can see everything. The ls command is something you're going to be using a lot. The tree command is something you'll use every once in a while, but it's a very helpful trick to know, or tip to know. If you need to find out more information about the ls command, you can go ahead and use the manual pages by typing out man ls and reading through the command manual, and you'll see that there are even more commands that you can use with the ls command. You can list them entries by columns, which is usually the default. You can sort them. So feel free to try out any of these other commands here. I just went ahead and I showed you some of the more commonly used ls commands. If you need to exit out of the manual pages, just click on the character Q and you'll be taken out of the manual pages for the ls command. So I hope this screencast was useful to you. Should you guys have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to use the feedback form and let me know all about it. You guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you for watching.